The gym echoed with cruel laughter. "You call that a cartwheel?" sneered Tanya, the self-proclaimed queen bee of Ridgeville High, as she flipped her glossy hair back. "Looks like a turtle on roller skates." Muffled snickers followed. At the center of the ridicule stood 17-year-old Emma Reyes, cheeks burning, jaw clenched, fists curled tightly by her sides. Dressed in her cheer uniform, her long brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail, she tried to hold her posture. But their taunts stung. Tanya and her crew had been mocking her all semester, whispering about her army dad, her basic clothes, and how she didn't belong on the squad. But what they didn't know was what Emma didn't show. What they didn't know was that Emma Reyes had been trained since childhood in close-quarters combat by her father, Sergeant Lucas Reyes, a former Special Forces operator turned single dad. And what he taught her wasn't just about self-defense. It was about discipline, focus, self-control, and above all, restraint. Emma hadn't told anyone about her training. She kept her strength quiet, her reflexes hidden. But when Tanya got too close, when she pushed Emma just a little too far, that's when everything changed. That day began like any other. Emma had stayed after school to practice. Unlike the others, she didn't have a fancy home gym or a cheer coach on speed dial. She had heart, dedication, and the memory of her mom, who died in a car crash when Emma was just 9, cheering her on during her first cartwheel. That was her fuel. But as the gym cleared out, Tanya's crew stayed behind. Emma knew they weren't there to practice. "You really think you're going to make nationals with those moves?" Tanya taunted again, arms crossed as she and her posse circled Emma like vultures. Emma stayed silent. "Ah, come on, army girl," mocked Brittany, Tanya's sidekick. "Show us some of those killer moves your daddy taught you." Or wait, she snickered, was that just bedtime story nonsense? The word daddy used that way, twisted, insulting, hit Emma hard. Her father, who woke at 4 a.m. every morning to work 2 jobs just so she could afford cheer camps. The man who cried alone the day she landed her back handspring. "Don't," Emma said, her voice even but low. "Controlled." Tanya smirked and stepped in. "Or what?" And that's when Tanya shoved her. Just a little push, but it was enough. In a blur, Emma's training kicked in. Her mind went still. Her breath slowed. Every fiber of her body moved on instinct. She sidestepped Tanya's second shove, caught her wrist, pivoted on her heel, and gently but firmly flipped her onto the mat with a practiced move one her father had drilled into her for years. Gasps filled the gym. Tanya's crew froze. Tanya, flat on her back, groaned and blinked in shock. Emma didn't move aggressively. She didn't throw a punch. She didn't scream. She simply stood tall, controlled, proud, and powerful. "I don't need to prove anything to you," she said softly, her voice steady. "But I will defend myself." For the first time, Tanya had nothing to say. But that was only the beginning. Word spread like wildfire. Emma thought she'd get expelled. Instead, the principal called her in and asked gently, "Did you act in self-defense?" "Yes," Emma said, quietly. "You didn't hurt her," he replied. "You stopped it." Tanya's parents tried to escalate the situation until the school reviewed the security footage. The evidence was clear. No strikes. No injuries. Just one graceful, composed maneuver that de-escalated a confrontation. Instead of getting punished, Emma became a quiet legend. But still, she didn't gloat. Her dad always told her, real strength doesn't need to shout. The National Cheerleading Championship was just weeks away. And despite the tension, Emma kept showing up. Practicing. Improving. Day after day. She began attracting attention for the right reasons. Not because of drama, but because of her unmatched focus and dedication. Then something unexpected happened. Tanya, bruised more in ego than body, began to change. Slowly. One day after practice, she approached Emma. "You didn't humiliate me," she admitted awkwardly. "I did that myself." Emma didn't gloat. She just said, "We can still make the team better." Together. Tanya blinked, surprised. And from that day on, they began to rebuild something, not a friendship, maybe, but respect. Nationals arrived. The pressure was immense. Bright lights. High stakes. Thousands of eyes watching. And when the Ridgeville team took the floor, Emma's nerves trembled. But as the music started, her focus kicked in, that same focus her father had taught her when learning how to breathe in high-stress combat simulations. She flew. She tumbled. She smiled. She led. And when the final move landed, with the crowd erupting in cheers, Emma's eyes searched the stands. There he was. Her father, eyes glistening, standing and clapping. Not just proud of her cheerleading, but of the woman she had become. Strong. Graceful. Resilient. They didn't win first place that day. But they did win hearts. Because Emma's story, the quiet girl mocked for being different, for being disciplined, had become one of courage, dignity, and controlled power. And when the team returned, Emma Reyes was no longer invisible. She was the girl who stood her ground without throwing punches. The girl who proved that strength isn't always loud. Call to action. If this story moved you, if you believe in standing strong without hurting others, in rising through discipline and grace, drop a comment below and tell us what inspired you most about Emma's journey. And if you want more powerful, emotional stories that make your heart race and your soul stir, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Be kind always. Let's spread strength, kindness, and resilience, one story at a time. Flexed Biceps Red Heart.